Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast on a mission to change the way the world eats. My name is Shurina. I'm a certified nutritionist, health nutrition, performance coach, and now I fully transitioned to brain coaching for mission-driven entrepreneurs, content creators, solopreneurs, thought leaders, mission-driven people who have no time to waste on ineffective brain states and who want to change the world and fast. Guys, this podcast is going to be transitioning more and more into the direction of maximizing our brain productivity, performance, effective states like motivation, drive, confidence, clarity, creative insight, flow states, instead of having brain fog, being all over the place, distracted, anxious, overwhelmed. And yes, guys, nutrition and lifestyle, they have everything to do with these states. You're not some machine living or being in a vacuum, not affected by nothing, and just you either on or off. You're either anxious and overwhelmed or creative, confident, focused, and productive. You are influenced by your environment every single minute, every single second, every single breath that you take. You are the product of your environment, external and internal, the one that you create in your mind with your thoughts and your emotions. But today, we are specifically talking about external environment. And we're specifically talking about one crucial for your productivity, your performance, your mental state, your mood. One crucial element of our environment that only now is starting to get attention that it truly deserves. Guys, I'm talking about light environment. I'm talking about light in your environment where you work, where you live, where you breathe, where you do anything. But especially where you create the products of your creative pursuits, right? Your most important work, whatever it is you do, the environment where you create that really is a game changer. There is a link in the podcast show notes to another podcast done by one of the leading neuroscientists in Stanford, Andrew Huberman. You probably heard about him quite a lot on this podcast already. So he did a whole podcast on that, bringing you the research and everything. On this podcast, today you're gonna get a short version how to optimize your light environment to optimize your productivity, your focus, your alertness, your wakefulness, but also your optimism, your motivation, your drive, your great mood. Mood is also affected by the light that is in our environment. These days I like to say, if you work and live in a dungeon, don't expect to be sunshine. Seriously, it's that simple. And a lot of entrepreneurs who I'm working with right now, either taking them through 5-day cancel brain fog challenge or working with them one-on-one, optimizing their productivity, their focus, and their results. So a lot of them say, oh, you're right. I didn't put these things together before. Like when I would work at home and it's kind of like not that well lit, kind of dim. When I would work at home, I would never feel productive. And then when I would go to the office, where he or she would sit by the window or in a brightly lit environment, or when I would go to a cafe that had a lot of natural light coming from outside, I would feel so much more productive. And I thought it was because of the environment, because I was at home or in the office or in the cafe. But now that you say that, I actually think light was the reason. And then people change light in their apartment in whichever way it is possible. And they're like, yeah, I am as productive at home as anywhere else. And that's actually another thing that I'm always optimizing my apartment for. I'm a digital nomad. I'm changing my location, my apartment so often. For the past 11 years, I haven't had a home, believe it or not. I'm just moving from one place to another. And so one thing I'm always optimizing for, because I love to work in my home environment, light. It's got to be brightly lit, ideally by natural light coming from big, huge windows or doors on the balcony. Like right now, I have this ideal environment, this space that is kitchen/living room, and it's one of the walls are glass doors to the balcony, and it's one of the walls like covered in that glass fully. And there is so much sun from the moment the sun goes up to the moment it goes down. And sun goes down around right now, like 6. It starts getting dimmer around maybe like 5:30. So I basically have natural light throughout the whole day. I almost never turn on light except for when I come back from my evening walk and do some reading, some studying. I turn on some orangey dim lights, and that's the only time when I turn on any light, and it's very dim, exactly the kind of light you want to have before bed. So your environment, the light, is one of the most effective hacks to your productivity and your positive mental state. So if it's in your ability in any way to sit by the window, to sit maybe even outside while working, please use that ability and work by a source of bright natural light most of your productive day. It's going to boost your productivity, your focus, your alertness, your optimism, your motivation, your drive, like nothing else. So if you have this ability, sit outside, sit by the window, it really does matter. You can experiment today. One day, work, or half of the day, work in a dim environment that is kind of like dark. And then the second part of the day, work in a brightly lit environment, right? If you don't have the ability to sit by natural light, if you're in the part of the world where right now during winter, you don't get that much natural light during most of the day, maybe by the time it's like 2 p.m., it's starting to get dark, then use something, LED lights. That's what Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist from Stanford, recommends. He actually uses this artist pad that's kind of like a selfie light, but it's rectangle and it's bigger, and it's 930 lux, that the measure of light intensity. So that's the one Andrew Huberman uses, I think in addition to natural light coming from outside, and especially in the morning when the sun is not up yet. So he would put it somewhere close to his face, and that's how he would work. And he says that for the first about like 9-10 hours of his working day, that's what he uses, and then he starts to transition to dimmer light. So for the first, and that's important, guys, also, for the first 8 to 10 hours of your waking time, depends on when you wake up and when natural light is out. But for the first 8 to 10 hours, you want to work in a very brightly lit environment to maximize your alertness, your focus, your productivity, your optimism, your drive, your motivation, because light affects things like dopamine and norepinephrine, epinephrine, neurotransmitters that keep you awake, alert, and ready to go, ready to work, ready to go after it. So for the first 8 to 10 hours, use that. Then for the next 4 or 5 hours, start dimming the light, not making it dark, but start kind of like imitate what happens in nature in the later afternoon when the sun is lower and the intensity of that light is less, right? And so you would want to simulate that in your environment, turning on lights that are on your eye level or a little bit below, that are a little bit dimmer, not full intensity. So if you have some side lights, if you have some lamps that are not that intense, about 9-10 hours after you're waking, you would want to start to transition to those to give your brain the signal that in so and so many hours we're going to be getting ready for bed. Now that time is not going to be your most productive time. So also first 8 to 10 hours of your day these are the hours to get the most focused, requiring analytical, detailed work. That's where your brain is primed, especially if you use the right kind of light primed for analytical, detailed, very focused work. Now, after about 8-9 hours after your waking time, you want to transition to work that is more creative, that requires less analysis or attention to detail, where you can allow it to be not so focused, because your focus at that time going to naturally start to diminish as your alertness. And so this is the best time, to take a break and then do some creative work. So for the next 4 or 5 hours. So first 8 to 9 hours, right? Your most focused, analytical, detailed work with a lot of light, especially good when it's natural light. Do your best to get natural light in the first 8-9 hours of waking, and then or use something like LED lamps, maybe light box or bigger selfie lights. These are also LED and they are also very bright. So use those for the first 8 to 10 hours of waking. And that's when you do your most analytical, detailed, focused work. And then after that, for the next 4 or 5 hours, transition to more creative work with less light that is at your eye level or lower, light that starts to get less intense. And then after those 4 or 5 hours, you should be basically done. Your brain is not at its best. And if you want to do some reading, some studying, like I usually do, we're going to talk about a couple of hacks for that period tomorrow that has nothing to do with light, but the way you look at things, the way you use your eyes. Today, let's focus on light. So at that time, probably last, 3-4 hours before bedtime, you really want to dim your lights, about 40 lux or less. That's the light intensity. That doesn't affect your melatonin, seems to be from the studies. And this is the time when you do your less mentally intense work. You, again, do some reading, some studying, something that doesn't require you to be fully on, something that is not that crucially important, something that does not cause you stress or anxiety, or there is no pressure, right? So that's what you want to transition for the last 3-4 hours before bed. And then also light intensity should be 40 lux or less. Really, the light should be below your eye level. How do you measure light intensity? You use apps that are available for free in Apple Store or on Android Store. Things like Light Meter or any kind of light measure thing. Just Google. You'll find them. And use light to induce more relaxed, winding down, sleepy states. And then, of course, 1 hour before bed, that's what you really want to double down on, reducing the intensity of your light and the intensity of your activities. So, light. One of the major hacks in your environment, guys, to use to increase your productivity, your focus, your alertness in certain parts of the day, like first 8 to 10 hours of your waking, and then start reducing that and transitioning that light into more orange and reddish spectrum, less intensity at your eye level or below. By the way, in the morning, the light that works best is the light above your head. It kind of again simulates sun, because sun is at its highest closer to noon, right? That is the peak. And during the morning, it just goes up and up and up. And so light above your eye level will stimulate your alertness, focus, and drive and motivation more than any other light. So kind of like imitate the sun again. First 8 to 10 hours, really bright, up there, and then transition to lower eye level, transition to less intensity and also less intense work, mental and physical, also more creative work, right? And the last hours before bed, about like 3-4 hours, really start to transition to more relaxed kind of work. For me, learning works best, like about to 3 hours before bed, maybe a couple of hours before bed. 3 to 4 hours, that's when I start studying. And then about an hour before bed, I don't do much really. I start getting ready for bed, maybe do some light reading, some meditation, some yoga, but really I just start to wind down. So light, that's the main takeaway. It is the most effective hack for your brain, for your nervous system, to improve your alertness, your focus, your motivation, your drive, your optimism. And guys, remember, if you live and work in a dungeon, don't expect yourself to be sunshine, right? It is that crucial. And that's why also I am truly considering to spend all of my winters in places like Mexico or, somewhere around equator, because light day here doesn't change much. And so from my morning to later afternoon, evening, I have all this natural sunlight, and that stimulates my productivity, my focus. And maybe that's why for the past few months, I've been my most productive, my most optimistic, my most motivated self. All because of light, because it's one of the strongest signals to our brain how productive, optimistic, and going out there to be. It's the most effective signal, right? And maybe again, that's why I'm feeling that great, and I am considering to spend all of my winters in summer time zones. If you hear some noise, there is again some works happening. But anyhow, light matters a lot, and I am very light sensitive, and I think we all are. We just don't always connect the dots, and we don't always realize how light truly affects everything, the way we feel, what we do, how we do it, how passionate and optimistic we are about that. Light is everything. So do your best to design for your most effective brain states with light. Check out the link to Andrew Huberman's podcast in the show notes. Share this episode with your friends, with your relatives, with your team. They all need to know this information to be their most awesome, productive, optimistic, motivated self. We all gotta be there, right? And then it's so much better to live in the world. Share this episode, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And as usual, till next time, eat better daily. And also, organize your light environment today.